There you go. All right, are we live?
Yep, we are live right now.
All right.
All right, this is good.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, I think
That's good, Leroy.
I think this is a while and there's a new setup, but I think we are golden right now. So I see there's a few little people peeking in and doing that kind of stuff. That's good. I was gonna do a little video like today. Well, let's see. I mean, I'm gonna try it. We'll see if this works. I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but I was at Costco today, and it looked like this a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me just take Ward off there and Leroy off there. Whoops, I took off me. There we go. See this was just the line for toilet paper. I don't know if you guys saw that today, but you guys probably can't see it. But it was just a big riot there for that. So it was fun. I'm playing with my green screen. You guys can't see it, but
that's all right.
Had some riot police in the back there, so that was fun.
Who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew? Who knew?
That was going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. I don't know if you guys saw it's funny. You got to start with your best meal. But by the way, I should say, okay, here we are off the cuff. I haven't introduced us formally back. We haven't been on the air live, the three of us, for quite some time. Right. There's been a few other things on here or there, and I've done a little live show. I did a thing with Swami Das, an interview one-on-one, but it has been us. And we're practicing good social distancing today because we're separated, so that's good. That's positive. And and so we're I think we're on the go, but we're back for this off the cuff, a little COVID-19 special edition of Off the Cuff. That's good. So
Christ above COVID or Christ over COVID?
Christ above viral infections, So
I don't know, but Joe looks kind of cool these days. He's got like the rocking glasses, the goatee.
I know. This is my rally goatee. I'm not going to shave this till COVID is gone.
Sure.
Is there going to be an earring? And
no.
I know. If he had it, he'd be the toe beating it.
No, that's my earphones. But it does look kind of like jewelry, doesn't it? Yeah. Hey.
It does. It does.
I'm
looks
so
like
hip.
Rocking a little.
I was gonna wear my mask, but
oh no!
Just so I didn't cough on you guys, but I thought that might ruin it. So.
What do you think of people? I mean, what do you think of people wearing their masks and everything out in public? What do you think of that? What does that evoke?
My wife did it today. I was going to do it when I went to the doctor's just for a normal. We had a regular visit because we live with my in-laws, so we didn't want to bring something back.
Right.
I guess I don't know. I think you got to be smart, that kind of thing. But I hear the real strategy is I don't know if you heard this. The Houston Astros have not had a single case of infection. What the heck is that? Oh, my wife's. She's on my speaker back here going crazy. She doesn't know she's hooked into the room. But anyway, the Houston Astros didn't have any COVID infections because they saw the signs coming. Anyway, I'm distracted. I'm going to go shut off a speaker. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
All right.
So
how's it going there?
Yeah, I was just remarking on how beautiful the background. I mean, you kind of like fit in there. I mean, it's like handsome. It's like all this beauty in the background, and then the big bear in front.
Yeah, someone's got to play spoiler.
Someone's got to play spoiler.
No. How have you been, man? Haven't seen you for a few days here.
I know.
And probably won't see you for a while.
I know. I was enjoying my drive on the freeways. Only 42 minutes now because no one's on the freeway, and I was thinking to myself, this is going to be awesome. And then I got home, and then I got the news last Thursday that we're not going into work. And it's kind of funny. When the weekends come, I really enjoy staying home, and then I kind of dread, there's a dread that now on Monday you got to go back to work, and now there's no going back to work on Monday, and it's kind of like, wow, I dread staying home. you just really realize how much you value, that
Oh
aspect. But it's
gosh.
just insane.
Okay, you guys still there?
We're
Having a
here.
good conversation? Did you solve the world's problems while I was gone?
I mean,
Yeah,
you-
Leroy's just talking about where he's at with all this.
Yeah.
We are in lockdown basically.
Yeah.
Stay-at-home order has been issued. 3 states now. Looks like 3 states: New York, New Jersey, and now California, I believe, and some others might be contemplating. I think Illinois might be contemplating it. We'll see.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So,
yeah, before we get into some of that stuff, I was wondering. I actually want to eventually chat a little bit about, doing church as a family, or how we do church in the kind of the current circumstances, and maybe some things about what you guys are doing or how that could look for everything. So that's one of the things I was looking at. But before we do that, I wanted to get your guys' take on some of the hardest things about this time. Is that it's hard to know what's good news, what's real news, and what's fake news. And so I thought back actually to Ward's class, that he teaches, and I remember, and I think it's the logic class, just talking about.
Word teaches logic.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know, like trying to discern like fact statements versus opinion statements. And I found this interesting. So I'm going to read it to you guys real quick. And then you guys think of some strategies while we're doing this. It was truly off the cuff of people when they're reading. How do we discern legit news from, political bias kind of stuff? This is interesting. Pew Research in 2018, they did a study actually on this thing, distinguishing between factual opinion statements and the news. And they said the findings of the survey conducted between February 22nd and March 8th, 2018 reveal that even this basic task presents a challenge. No kidding. The main portion of the study, which measured the public's ability to distinguish between 5 factual statements and 5 opinion statements, found that the majority of Americans correctly identified at least 3 of the 5 statements in each set, but this is a result only of a little better than random guesses. Far fewer Americans got all 5 correct, and roughly a quarter got most all wrong. Now, by the way, I'm going to link to this on the website. They still have this quiz up, and I took this. They're really straightforward. I mean, this is like, honestly, I'm not kidding. These are like simple sentences, probably like 5th grade level in terms of reading, no big words, and people couldn't discern fact from opinion in these things. So that was interesting. So anyway, so here's what they said. They said that those with high political awareness, those who are very digitally savvy, and those who place high levels of trust in the news media are better able than others to accurately identify news-related statements as factual or opinion. 36% of Americans with high levels of political awareness, those who are knowledgeable about politics and regularity, got political news correctly identified 5 factual news statements, compared with about half as many, 17%, say that a free press is constant. Free press, and those who have political low awareness. So basically, they're talking about the political awareness makes that easier. So what do you guys think about that? Like that survey that really people aren't really good at discerning fact from opinion.
My initial question would be that when you took it, were you able to see what they considered to be the answers, and did you agree with the answers?
Yeah, they showed the answers, and they were the survey was decent. It was like statements like it's real basic statements like people crossing illegally at the border should have some legal rights under the Constitution. Okay, it's a fact statement in the sense of like, okay, there's, you might disagree with the fact, but it's a fact statement. It's not an opinion statement. Then they had other opinion statements that were blatant, like, Obama has failed at doing this, or Trump has failed at not Trump at the time, Trump has failed at doing whatever, and then they had these clear opinion statements. So they're all very simple. This is what surprised me when I read the stats after read this after I took the survey, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So what are some ways, like people, that you guys can think of? How can we, as we're watching the news, discern what is fact from what is opinion, because that seems, man, I was on Twitter today and people are just nuts, and what they can't discern one thing from the other.
Well, it's very interesting. I guess the first thing is to determine the source. And just because you know that a person is a straight news person doesn't mean that they don't editorialize, but generally there's a distinction between, the kind of people, like, for example, Sean Hannity shouldn't be considered a, straight journalist. He's an opinion guy, whereas Bret Baier is, supposedly a straight journalist. So the statements that I expect to hear from Sean Hannity, 99% are opinion, his opinion. Whereas Bret Baier, I should expect the other way, that I should see, 99% fact statements. Now, that doesn't mean that that's exactly what I'm going to get, but determining the source, I think, is the first way. Who's saying it? What is their stance toward the news? For me, that's the first thing that I'm gonna try to consider, because that's going to tell me immediately what I'm going to be expecting. If it's the Onion, for example, or the Babylon Bee, I shouldn't expect, although some people have a hard time dealing or knowing the difference, I shouldn't expect straight journalism and facts from the Onion or Babylon Bee. But some people have a hard time determining that. But I should expect to see it on, the straight news. I mean, I guess that's the first thing that I would say.
Yeah, it seems to me, that those are good points. And I think that what happens is sometimes people need to remember, you need to do your own research, and don't just accept what is said. Just because you like the conclusion or like the point doesn't make it true. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the coronavirus and whatnot, there are certain things that have been said that have not been fully accurate. And so, for instance, I'll see things on social media or whatever, and my wife, she's a nurse, and I'll say, hey, what about this? Does this ring true to you? And that's even just an initial check from a nurse or a reliable source in the field dealing with these things. So we need to check the sources and check the claims and see if what it is, because the goal, of course, needs to be pursuing truth, not what makes us happy. Today I read a bit on the news it was Bloomberg Media, who put out a critique on the issue of someone saying, hey, there's some malaria medicine that might be able to help with it and help with the coronavirus. And one of the things they said was, but watch out, if you double the dose, or if you take 2 milligrams or whatever it was, if you double the dose, it can kill you. It's fatal. Well, okay, the problem with that is if you take 2 milligrams or a large dose of almost any medication, it can kill you. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't a fair critique. Of course, if you OD on something,
right,
then there's a problem. So just because they said there's a problem if you take too much doesn't mean there's a problem with the medication.
Sure.
So Bloomberg Media was nailed on this. They were ravaged over this because they said something actually just ridiculous. Now, they weren't trying to just say, hey, be careful. They were saying, hey, there's a problem with using this one because you could die from it if you take too much. That's how they spin the issue. You just can't fall for the spin.
I was going to add, when I was a little boy, which wasn't that long ago,
that was a long time ago.
I loved to watch the news. I remember my favorite guy was Walter Cronkite. Obviously, everybody loved Walter Cronkite. He would always finish his news program saying, and that's the way it is this day, and he'd give you the date. I remember watching Harry Reasoner. I remember watching Dan Rather, who was actually really good when I was a youngster. But the one thing that they all had in common is they just told you what happened. If there was editorializing, it was very, very small. But they just told you the facts of the day. At this time of day, such and such happened in, this place. And that's what the news was. And then, I think Fox News, and I watch Fox News, but I think Fox News is the worst thing that's ever happened to news media. I know that sounds crazy, and I love Fox News better than anybody out there, but they're the worst thing
So you
that's
love the
ever
thing that's the worst. Wow. What's
it
that say
because
about Leroy Hill?
they're the worst. And here's why. Because just what we're talking about right now, Fox would have on the guy on the left and the guy on the right. And then they'd have the two hosts, one on the left and one on the right. The guy on the right would question and savage the guy on the left, and the guy on the left would question and savage the guy on the right. But at the end, the viewer is sitting there asking, well, who's telling the truth? All they got in those shots was you're savaging your enemy, but you didn't really get any facts. And that model of doing the news kind of won the day. The problem is other people, on other programs, they just only give you the left. At least on Fox, they'll give you the right and the left. I mean, whether we agree with it or not.
But you don't have a system, you have no capacity as a viewer to discern between those arguments. Right. Yeah. So like I was thinking one of the things I think strategically, I think people should really consider is one, don't read any. First of all, I'd say turn off the TV news at all completely. I think read the news online because if you can read it, you can take time to wait. Did I just hear? Did I just read that right? You can reread stuff. When you're listening to it, you get some false impressions. It's harder to discern what is opinion or fact when it's all going by so fast. It can also be emotional because they can put pictures behind it. They can really sway your emotions, and you're not really objective in like assessing what's being done. So I would honestly, I haven't watched TV news in 5 years. So I just don't even watch TV news. It's just terrible for the most part. So that's the first thing I would suggest. And the second thing is don't read any newspaper stories until you watch the primary source. This coronavirus stuff, it's been crazy. I've watched the presentations at the Rose Garden that Trump has done, and I've watched those things live, watched the press, the Q&A after, and then I go read headlines, and the headlines don't reflect anything that was actually said. Mm-hmm. But they infuse a little bit of fact with a lot of opinion, and for people like at Pew that says the majority can't tell the difference, right? It sounds like Trump says that Trump says that there's a cure and he's just wrong. We're fact checking that. And it's like, well, no, he never said that. He said, I'm hopeful that there's something in testing that will work. And I'm really hopeful. I think it's going to work. That's him expressing an opinion, not a fact. So you can't fact check an opinion with another opinion. It's just not what happened. But
it's insane.
You get a completely different reality when you watch primary source stuff. So I would encourage people to do that instead before, and then go read other stuff after. But look at the primary, and if you don't have time to do that, be very careful to what you consume.
I would say also, and I don't know if you have something to say, Ward, please say it. But I would say you got to listen to the words that they use. I've never heard more people certain about nothing. They're so certain about what might happen that it gets confusing. So what they'll say is, here's the worst thing that can happen. And they will never say that it will, it should, and it is going to. They will say possibly, may, might. They will always be certain about what might possibly happen. But then when they argue, they're going to argue the worst. They're never going to argue the least likely. It's always the worst. I mean, it's the most insane thing. Hello? You guys there?
Ward freeze?
Oh, yeah. We're here.
Oh, okay.
No, Joe goes.
Yeah, no, that's why I say, like, turn off because, the TV news is all about ratings. It's a ratings gambit. So they've got to sensationalize. They've got to overemphasize the dramatic to keep people's attention. And it's just a terrible source of news in general. I don't care if it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah.
TV news is just a terrible way to get news. I mean, I'd rather us go back to newspapers over television news. So I think that just seems draconian and maybe crazy, but I just don't do it.
People need to pick up on what's important to them. The issue is important because you can't listen to everything. You can't fact check everything. Mm-hmm. But pick out more.
Frozen while he was kissing us. Look at that frozen face there.
It said lost there. Connection lost.
Yeah, you had a little kissy face when you were lost. You're like, ooh. It was nice. That was sweet.
Yeah. Pick up on the issues that are important to you and go check them out. Like you said, from original sources, but also from competing sources, because maybe the original source was said it in one way versus someone saying it in another way.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you understand what was actually said,
Right.
and from who you're listening to, make sure they understood what was said and fairly represented it. Then you're going to find people who are more consistent with that. You're going to find more reliable sources, and you're going to be able to discern who the less reliable sources are. So, for instance, I think, Dennis Prager does a really good job at trying to be fair and balanced. He does a very good job. He has come to be a reliable source of one that I'll listen to. If I don't have time to fact check everything, but he's talking about something, I'll turn to, let's say, Ben Shapiro, Dennis Prager, or someone like that. They tend to present things very well and very accurately, fairly consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And you need
Ben
to find
Shapiro
sources like
one of those people too.
Ben Shapiro is another one. That's right. So
Yeah.
You know,
let me just jump in real quick and build off that one thing I would say too is I think finding a source that's reliable is tough. We can't all. So that makes me two strategies really for what Ward said. One is don't try to be an expert on everything. Just we can all Google, but that doesn't make us an expert. So just because we read one story, don't start fighting battles with other people because we read a story. But two, find a source you can trust on particular topics. Like, you said you talk to your wife. My mom's an RN, so I'll maybe ask her questions. We've got a guy at church, who's a microbiologist, so he understands some of that stuff. So I've run some stuff by certain people before I start spouting off on things, because I can ask them questions. So find a source. I think everybody needs to find sources, closer to them that they can ask questions of, that they'll get good answers and they will correct simple misunderstandings, because you can't get that on just listening to the news media or going on Twitter. You get battles. So we need to find sources that we can engage with that will help refine our thinking, as opposed to just thinking we're experts because we read one or two articles
or confirm our biases.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a key point, because the reason why so many people are distrustful of the news that they're hearing is because they know deep down inside they don't trust the sources, even of their favorite people. They know their favorite people are giving to slanting the news sometimes, and now that we need straightforward news and straightforward facts, people are afraid. They don't know who to believe. So when people say that they're having a struggling to believe this source or that source, I don't doubt it. I mean, it's because we know sometimes that the people who we really like aren't really being straight with us all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, you're off there, Joe. We can't hear you.
So I wouldn't clutter up the live stream, because I know we're having some little bandwidth issues. But I do want to get to some doing church and family things and how everyone's dealing with that, because I want to deal with some positive stuff. But just real quick, maybe we can do this quickly. How would you rate the sort of the response so far to COVID-19, whether it's by individuals or by government? What is there news stories that jump out that help you?
Oh, you're freezing up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't hear the question.
You wanted to know how would you rate the COVID response by the government or any individual? Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you mean by?
Yeah, how do you think we've responded?
Government?
Yeah. How do you think we've responded so far? Is there something that jumps out in the news that tells you, hey, we've done a poor job, we've done a great job? What do you think so far?
I think it's really easy to hindsight's 2020, and so it's really easy to throw stones. For instance, like Governor Newsom here in California, you get a stay-at-home issue, and I agree that I support it. Is it necessarily the right move? I don't think we know the right move. It's just the coronavirus here is so novel in some ways, and the government, everyone's reeling from it. There's no playbook to do it and to do it right.
Right.
So I think it's great what he's doing the best he can. Hopefully, I don't know all the issues going into it, but he's asked for it, and we need to support that and do what we can because this thing is bad, especially for older people. This thing is potentially very very bad.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I've, the governors, and I've gotten a chance to watch some of their press conferences. I think by and large, they are attempting to do the best they can do. The disease caught everybody flat-footed. I mean, there's no way that people are going to be prepared to shut down the world. 2 weeks ago, nobody was thinking about this.
yeah,
Just shut that. But that tells you on one level that the serious nature of what's going on, and on another level, that it tells you that hey, this is new. This is serious, and I'm never going to complain about someone, especially with the possibility of 1 million people dying in our country, who says, "Look, we need to take some drastic measures. We're not at the most drastic measures yet, but we need to do something right now. And here's the best we've got." I mean, what can you say? Do we like it? No. I mean, do we all want to sit home? No. But and I think because we're not seeing literally people drop dead in the streets, that it's hard for people to quantify how bad this can be. You know what I'm saying? But the people who we elect into office, and they're attempting to say this can be really bad. I think we have to stick with them. That we have to believe that they know more than we do right now. No matter who they are, and I think they're trying to do the best they can. I don't see anybody trying to exploit it.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Is that, like, look, I'm not a fan of Newsom. I think he's not. I think he's a terrible governor overall
Sure.
in California. But part of you, we're in the middle of something, and we don't know what. I don't know exactly what sources to trust on certain things, and I go back and forth. But at some level, I've got to at least trust at this point in the process that he's doing what he thinks is right for California. And I guess maybe a month from now we can figure out if he was grandstanding or if it was politics. And
Sure.
there's time for Monday morning quarterback on Monday, but right now we're
It's Sunday.
we're like in the first quarter,
It's
well,
So I think that's a good point, Leroy. I think we need to.
you can't be fully wrong on it.
yeah.
You can't be fully wrong. Italy shut down. I mean, they did it for the entire country,
Right.
It's not like he's winging it by himself. No
Sure.
one else is doing it. He was the first one in the United States to do it. But absolutely, there's things going on, and we'll find out what happens, and we just pray for everybody. I think we live in a country here in the West where we're really easy. It's easy for us to complain and whine because we've had it so good. We've had it so easy, and we like the easy life and want things to
Sure.
work right. Now it's time for us to suck it up and pitch in, and not have riots over toilet paper, and then make sure other people are taken care of. It may not affect you very much, if at all, if you get it, the virus, but it could affect other people you give it to.
Right.
So,
And that is such a key. That's a good segue into church.
Amen.
That's a good segue into. And I was kind of, I really wasn't in the very beginning kind of grasping the reality that the real issue isn't that the disease itself is like super lethal. The real issue is that so many people get it at the same time, overwhelms our system. And I think in terms of that, I'm not mad at any pastor, before the shutdowns came, the lockdowns came, who said we're not going to meet. I mean, they had to sit down and think with their folks about what's wise and what's best for our church. And when they decided that not to have service, I think some people took it as capitulating to the government, when it might just have really been wisdom, that I don't really want to kill half my congregation and half the country and all the old folks in my congregation. We probably need to be wise here.
absolutely. Was it 1 Corinthians 10 talks about, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. It's like,
Right.
okay, just because you can meet doesn't mean you should meet at a time like this.
Well, and here's the thing
So
that
don't abuse your freedom. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that response. I just read before coming on, like a guy in Kentucky or something like, I can't remember where the heck it was, back east somewhere. He's
Louisiana,
like their
Louisiana.
Louisiana, their church met, and he's like, the government can't tell us what to do, and we're gonna meet,
Right.
and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly what's happening. But here's the problem with that, and for a large segment of, well, a small segment of Christianity that's been sort of concerned about this for a long time, is that, look, what his problem is he thinks the only way to do church is to gather that one place and be in that room of with 500 people or 1,000 people at one time
Sure.
with him
Sure.
preaching. He thinks that's the only way to do church. And so, when I thought about this question, I think this is a great opportunity. I mean, you think about the house church in China, they're not disrupted by as much of this like the rest of the world, because they're already meeting in groups, probably less than 10 for most of them, but they're doing it by threat of death, like from the
Right.
government, not from the disease. So they've been living with the threat of death if they gather with too many people at once for a long time, for, like I said, different reasons. So I think, like for us, we're just gathering as a family on Sunday, and like tomorrow we'll sing a hymn together, and we're going to try to say, pray through a couple passages, and it's not really like a sermon-esque thing, but I'll have a little devotional. I'm going to teach my boys. We're going to do a praying through the Psalms thing, I think, next week, and teach them how to pray through the Psalms. So we'll spend a whole service, I think, next weekend praying through the Psalms, and then we'll introduce another hymn, and I'm doing like a story behind the hymn and why it was important, and to get a life story, kind of a little bit of a narrative and somebody's faith that was changed and how God changed them and stuff. So we're doing very basic stuff, and it's myself and my wife and our 3 sons and my in-laws who are here. We might invite the one neighbor gal next door. She's a single mom, and
Sure.
she's struggling, and she doesn't know the Lord, and she wants to know God. She's come over and had coffee, and like she really wants to know who God is. So we might invite her over. So we're under the 10 limit, so we're okay. But I mean, this is really an opportunity, I think, for the church.
I think you're 110% right. I think what this does is it shows on one level the need for discipleship, how important discipleship is. How important it is to be thinking about what the church is and what the church's responsibility is, and preparing people for times like this. So if churchmen are wise, churchmen and churchwomen are wise, we'll look at how we responded in this situation and probably begin to articulate a different response for a future time, or we'll look at our response to this and enshrine some good things. So my daughter, for example, she's a women's ministry director at her church, and she's having to take all of her Bible study for all the women online. And she was telling me how hard it was. And I looked at her and I said, but this is an absolute great responsibility, because when you guys go back, to meeting in the building, now you're going to have this whole digital thing that you didn't have before, to continue on with. So there's going to be some good things that come out of it. And I think as individuals, so for us, we meet, like I was meeting just before this with our grandsons, and we were talking about Romans 1, 18 to 22, and we were reading through C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and we're reading about the moral law and how God has made himself evident to every man, and we had a great hour conversation about that. And I think conversations about the scriptures, to talk about them in a way that really gets past the surface text and really begins to wrestle with the ideas in there, that's a great thing to be doing right now. These conversations are awesome. I mean, they're you'll remember them forever if you engage in them. Ward.
I can never tell if he's frozen or if he's just, I'm looking. I try to look, see if he even blinks, and I don't think he even blinks. He's like a cyborg.
There you go. Hey, all work all the time, man. So no, it is an opportunity, and we don't have it, a tenth as bad as people who are being persecuted, as mentioned. So we really need to be able to capitalize on it. And we can do that. I think one of the things I'm trying to set up with some friends is an e-fellowship. So get people together on, we have Zoom, and be able to set it up and have the kids talk with one another, and not just do the church service church, but do fellowship through there
Sure.
and put it up on this TV screen and have the video camera there and have them share stories back and forth. Maybe get a story of the Bible together from the same version and read it in one group. Take part of the passage, another one, do another one.
Mhm.
Have them come together and talk about what they're doing. Have some games. You can do a variety of things over that and still have some sort of connection because we do have this ability to do this even online. And so make it more viable as far as fellowship goes and not just an isolation thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it has to be planned. It has to be planned. Parents have to go, okay, I want to do this. I can do this. I'm going to get it done, even if it's just on the phone. The kids will love it if it's just not even on the phone. So,
You know, it's a good thing to do too. Write a Bible study and just make it available. I'm always reminded how the church really picked up the printing press and just used it to their own ends. And we live in a unique time. I mean, we could be halfway around the world in a second. In a second. Just turn on the internet, and our ideas can be out there in a second. We live in a unique time, and the only thing that we're limited by is our imagination. Can we? Let's think
And
about.
the governor of California.
Well,
I just said.
and the governor. Yeah, but we
But
live in
yeah,
a
yeah.
unique time. We do. We live in a unique time.
Yours sounds
We
nicer.
have to take advantage of it. Yeah, we have to learn how to take advantage of it. Yeah.
No,
I didn't hear what he said. He said something funny because he smiled.
I said, but yours sounds nicer just to say the only thing we're living by is imagination.
Well, we could sing Imagine the song, right?
Yeah, we could, but then the only people watching would probably quit. So,
Oh no, they would just cut it and then play it over like these three idiots.
yeah, you know what? I don't want to lose this opportunity in a sense of like, I think right now everyone's stuck thinking, well, it's going to just be a few weeks, so they just take what we do on a regular Sunday, put it on video, live stream the service, and watch it home. So it's not really rethinking the way we're doing church and making
Right.
disciples. We're just simply digitizing what we already do and making it one more step farther away from being actually intimate in any meaningful way. So I think what I'd rather see, I mean, what I'd love to see churches do is like say, pastors, look, put in your time. Okay, you can have a worship song, whatever, but put in your time. Here's like a short message. Here's a 15-minute thing. Email out to people discussions. Here's the questions to ask if your kids are 5 to 10 years old. Like here's a set of questions. Here's the discussion questions if your kid's a little bit older. Here's how you can do these things. Here's the passage. If you don't feel competent to, as a parent to exegete this passage or understand it, whatever, listen to my little talk but now go and unpack this as a family. Because one of the things this is an opportunity, I think, for parents to realize that they're the disciple makers for their kids. We've given that away to the church, and now that we're forced to not let the church do it, we can't let the schools educate our kids anymore. So now we're forced to be the educators, and those are all things we should be naturally doing anyway. So there's a huge opportunity, I think, for parents to be what God has designed us to be, the primary educators, the primary disciple makers of our kids. And I think it's not as hard as we're making it out to be because we think, oh, I have to have curriculum. I've got all this stuff. I mean, seriously, read through a chapter in anywhere in the Bible and just talk about it with the kids. What questions naturally come up? And if you get lost, say, wow, the kids, that's a great question. I have no idea. I bet you I could look that up in a commentary or figure that out. Let's figure it out together. I mean, that's part of what you could do is figure out what those things mean together. There's no shame in that. That's part of what I think will be the joy that, like you said, remember these conversations. That'll stick out.
Sure.
I think a lot of parents don't know where to begin because they've never really done that.
Yeah.
And so I think they just need to begin with themselves, open up the Gospel of John, open up Genesis or whatever it is, whatever book is of interest there. Just start reading it, and the questions that you have, are likely similar questions your kids have, or they'll ask questions and you work on it together. But a lot of parents, I think, are intimidated. They don't know how to do it. So do you have some sources? Do you have some key sources you could turn to? One to me is the Net Bible.
Yeah.
Has little notes along the way.
Hmm.
If you read the Net Bible and you can click on it, they have translator notes and they have some other notes for you. If you just click on like the A, the B, the C,
Yeah.
and different numbers in there, and they'll bring up some clarifying things and some commentary along the way. The Net Bible online.
Yeah.
Other sources for parents to begin reading the Bible with them and be able to answer some questions. What sources do you have for that?
Yeah. I think ESV.org for the ESV Bible. They have a study Bible. I'm pretty sure all the ESV study Bible notes are linked. I think they are on their web. I'm not sure, though. I found their notes are pretty good for introductory beginning, just to understand the Bible, though. The ESV study Bible. And it's got a lot of pictures and images and stuff that help people
Nice.
understand
Okay.
stuff.
That's good.
That's been a good one. I think it's if you have to get a good one volume kind of the Bible and notes together, ESV Study Bible, I think is pretty good. But it's even more. I mean, I do think where to find the answers is key. But I just don't want to get past the part is I think part of the journey for parents is learning to work through this with their kids is where it's okay to begin. They don't have to have it figured out to start
Right.
tomorrow is Sunday. Pick like you said, just go John chapter 1. Read through it with your kids and say, well, kids, what comes out? The simple question, kids, what jumps out in this passage? What doesn't make sense? Okay, what doesn't make sense? What does make sense? And what can we do to live this out as a family? And what can we do to live this out as in the world around us right now? Those 4 questions, if you can ask those 4 questions about every single passage you read, what don't you understand? What do you understand? What's the takeaway for our family? What's the takeaway even for you personally, if you want to add another question? Or what's the takeaway as we reach into our community? Okay, there's those simple questions. You can do that with every passage every week, and you will be doing a fabulous job doing church with your family.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to write Bible studies at the church that we went to, and the Bible studies were pretty much the same sort of thing. The beginning section was kind of a, go to the text and look at what the text said, and the next question sort of asked, what should you do in light of what you read or something. But it really does just boil down the questions. I always, when I started to read the Bible, I went to Sonic Light for commentary, soniclight.org as a free commentary on every book of the Bible that's updated every single year. Another resource is executable outlines. Meaning, the thing about executable outlines is he doesn't really go into every book in the Bible, but he does go. He does do a lot of the text, and that'll give you a lot of the background history of the text. But like you said, really basic questions about what you're seeing, I think, is the easiest way to begin to study the Bible. And then another key thing is to kind of reflect on your own children and ask, what do my kids need? What do my kids need to hear? I mean, what's going on with them? I mean, you watch them every day. You live with them.
You do now.
You do now.
And you found out it wasn't the teacher.
What may be lacking in their character that we kind of need to, talk about? What do you need to encourage, in your kids? And then you can go to the scriptures to kind of find stories. I mean, the Old Testament is replete with stories that you could, that are narratives that make it easy to talk about those stories, and you could see the moral, the story almost played out right there. So the Old Testament is really good for that.
Yeah.
And the goal, of course, is not to have your kids grow up to obey you, but to be a kind of thinking, quality Christian that they should be, and that's a different goal. So encouraging them to think, encouraging them to ask questions, encouraging them to work through things will help teach them how to be able to discern quality news versus fake news. That's even from Scripture.
Yeah.
Scripture sets the tone for thinking and learning to think well. Luke 1:1-4. I mean, where Luke does that with Theophilus, because he has the office has questions, and Luke, investigates everything carefully from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an investigative side to Scripture where we should be asking questions to learn, because we aren't born knowing, we're born inquiring, and we need to find out what the truth is, what the facts are.
Yeah.
So and that takes time.
Yeah.
Instilling that in kids.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's the key that I want people to get. And, I maybe have to do some videos this week or something, just helping people, like just on this or something. I don't know. But like, parents don't need a curriculum. They don't need to buy a curriculum. That's what I'm trying to get at. We don't need to buy a curriculum. We don't need to produce a lot of stuff. You just have to read the Bible, allow the questions to come naturally. They come, and some you will answer, some you can't. Just teach your kids. Okay, let them see your parents. Okay, I'm going to write down that's a question. That's a great question, little Timmy. I've never thought about that before. I have no idea why, the leper did this, or what it meant when the guy jammed a spike through the guy's head and Tamar and all that stuff, whatever. You read these stories and you're going to get questions like, that's a great question. And then email your pastor, email somebody who's, you're close to, that you can ask those questions with. Skype with them, figure it out, talk about the Bible with them, and then get back with the kids. Hey, look, I talked to somebody. Here's what I found out. What do you think? Does that help? Mm-hmm. We don't need curriculum for that. We just need to take time, talk with our kids, let them ask questions, like Ward said, write them down. If you don't know an answer, write them down, and then, keep a little journal. I mean, that'd be fabulous if you did that.
Are you saying that we listen to Ward?
Yes, I know. These are wild times. It took a virus destroying the world to realize your value, Ward Crocker.
Well, I'm done. That's it.
You're what I used to take it. I used to just take you for granted. Now I know I need you.
Well, now I know what it's like to be in your family. Oh.
Ow.
Oh.
So no.
Yeah, no, that's good. And the authority lies in Scripture, and that's what we need to get to know. It's walking on the highways and byways, of course, is the Old Testament way of putting that, with your children, walking on the highways and byways, just part of life. And right now, don't walk on the highway. Well, you can walk on the highways now.
Yeah.
Just
no, well, 6 feet. That's not necessarily true. I have a story here. France is actually arresting people who are out walking on the streets.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. In Philly, they're letting the criminals go free out of the jails, which doesn't make sense because they're in isolation. Okay, they're already contained. Why let them free? I don't know, but okay, they're letting them free, but arresting people who are walking free because, I don't know, it's crazy times.
It's the great purge, I guess. Let them go. And I don't know. It's sad.
Do you realize, this is totally off the cuff. Yeah. There's a movie that they've been trying to put out for like almost a year called The Hunt, where, I suppose, I don't really know all the parameters, but the Republicans get killed at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Of the movie. Why are they trying to push this movie out like right now? Like right now. Let's go kill all our conservative friends.
I think
people are crazy.
There was a movie about that with Ice Cube back in there.
I remember watching that. I don't
remember the name. I think we talked about this once before.
The Hunted or something like that.
I want to see that movie again, because it was like basically these white guys take him out, and they take anybody out. They're not racist. They would hunt white people well, but he's the guy that gives them what for and doesn't get hunted by them anymore in the woods.
He kills them all.
Yeah. Well, now we ruined the movie for Ward. So
I forgot about that movie. That was an interesting movie. Then the guy he gets back to the city and hunts them down there.
Yeah.
Rutger Hauer.
What's that?
Rutger Hauer. That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
a long time ago.
Long time ago. Yeah.
Well, let's say this. So, guys, what sort of maybe parting words would you want people to take away from not just this conversation, or just in general, as you guys? What's sort of any verses come to mind, or any things you've been reading that come to mind that really you'd want to leave as an aside for this?
For me, the Deuteronomy passage where, walking on highways and byways, which is a very intentional aspect of taking charge of and with the kids. I have to set a schedule. I mean, for myself, I need to schedule things. And I find it much because I have younger kids. I have 4 and 6 years old. So in the mornings, getting them up, getting them out of the bed, doing chores, and then saying, okay, now you sit down and reading with them and having them read. I have a reading program for each of them. Doing the math, getting the schoolwork that they have. Like, well, one of Felicity has a schoolwork that we have from home, but just making sure we sit down and being very intentional about their education, but time with them too, intentionally time with them, and not blaming the kids for this.
Yeah.
They're not secondary, they're primary. Not looking to get away from them, but engaging them as intentionally as possible, and letting them know they're loved and everything's going to be okay. They shouldn't bear the stress of the situation.
Well, it's kind of their fault, though. I mean, if they didn't, if they weren't carriers of this terrible virus, and then we wouldn't be stuck in this situation. So it really is the kids' fault.
It really is.
Yeah. But don't let them feel that.
No.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, we'll get it back from them in retirement years.
Yeah, if they live that long.
You remember 2020?
You owe me.
I say redeem the time. I mean, I remember it's probably about 8 years ago. I was out of work for a year, and
Amen.
I know. I remember thinking during that time I was never going to get another job, and my wife just kept encouraging me. And she encouraged me to continue to grow as a person, to put myself out there and invest in myself in that season. And like the scripture says, in due season, you reap a reward. And I think the big fear that I have for people is that we're going to just sit at home and watch television or play video games.
Right.
You're going to have at least 2 weeks at home, at least, maybe longer, but at least 2 weeks at home.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could be longer.
Yeah.
You have to find ways to make this time benefit for you.
Yeah.
Sharpen a skill for work. Sharpen your Bible study. Sharpen something. You should not leave this. Exactly. You should not leave this time in the quote unquote cave, and not come out a better person in some way for it. So I would just simply say redeem the time. I mean, and if you don't have family habits of eating it together, develop new family habits of eating together. Cook a meal, together.
It could be your last.
It could be your last, right? And eat it together.
The optimist there.
Yeah, well,
No, that's good, and have some fun with it. Come up with something different that's fun. Yeah. Scavenger hunt or something,
I saw you post something about that on Facebook. Yeah. One of the things I've been doing with my boys, and I think what Leroy's saying is really good, is that, make yourself a better person by the time you come out of this than when you started this, find some way to do that, and I think that's a really good word. One of the things I was doing with our boys, because, it's like, I'm struggling, like, okay, what do I do with the kids? I'm not a homeschooling kind of guy, I've never done that. So what I just did is what are the important things I think my kids, I don't think, everyone complains. Everyone always complains. The school systems fail at XYZ, right? So I said, okay, what are the biggest things that we think our kids aren't learning in school? So I'm like, well, now I'm going to make them learn it. So here's what I did. I said, okay, the other day, I said, I think they need to understand the importance of like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the historical side of that. So I found 3 videos. Each of them are only like 5 minutes each. So not long. And my kids are teenagers. I could find some longer stuff. Maybe I will. But I found 3 that I thought were good. I think one was a PragerU video. A couple others. I don't even remember what they were. And I said, okay, I texted them to my kids. I said, this is your homework. Watch each video. Take notes. Come give me a report. And so then I picked, I'm picking different issues. I'm picking all kinds of issues that I want on American history, on I picked one on sort of like the Christian influence within the founding of the nation, that kind of stuff. I'm going to pick some other ones, religious based, some just history based, some just other stuff. And I'm just going to find a couple good videos and maybe one longer video, it just depends. And then make them just take a note and report it back to me. That's one thing I just started doing with them, and I think it just gives them something to do away from games, but then it's interacting because they got a report, and then we end up having a conversation about, well, why was that important? That, like I had with my 12-year-old, soon to be 13, he did watch one, and he talked about he said one of the videos said that you couldn't have freedom if you didn't have Christianity. I said, well, what do you think that means? So we ended up in this big discussion about, well, if the basic assumption is that all men are created equal, and that assumes there's a God who created, and that the rights they have are given by God and can't be taken by a government, then that's the foundation for freedom. So the foundation for freedom is assuming there's a Judeo-Christian God who created with human sacredness and intrinsic rights. Mm-hmm. So that's what that video is meaning. And he's like, oh, I get it. So it ties it back to God, and so he started that makes sense, how it ties together. But it was a longer conversation. I asked him a lot of questions to try to help him figure out. I asked him a lot of, well, why do you think that is? Well, what do you mean by that? Why do you think that is? And so I asked him a ton of those questions, and he eventually traced it back to those points. I tried to lead the questions enough so he could get the parts he was missing. But I think that's an easy thing to do for parents. You don't have to invent curriculum, you don't have to invent stuff. If you think your kids haven't been learning something that you think is important, find some videos, tell them to watch it, make a report, and have a conversation about the videos. There you go. Easy.
There you go. Yeah. Actually, and you can do it on a variety, as you mentioned, all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
There's was it not NASA, but another place like that. The Kennedy Space Center. The Kennedy Space Center is putting things online for free for kids too, and a lot of places are stepping up. Disney is putting things online for free as far as how they develop characters and doing art and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So developing them and their artistic skills. So a lot of these places are doing a number of different things, and so you can have them do reports on those things or learn different things history-wise. Hopefully logic, hopefully critical thinking. What does it mean to think well? Give them some things to think about, some claims people make. Learn how to work through those and develop a basis for being able to understand how something is true. So all kinds of things.
Yeah.
What would you say to the 20-something who is sitting at home, stuck at home, and is wanting to start out, learning something about the Bible?
If they're just wanting to start to learn now, I'd say you're out of luck.
Well, go to Southern California Seminary.edu, SoCalSem.edu.
Yeah.
There are some excellent sites out there, some excellent places. Figure out what you want to learn. Learn how to think well, learn how to write well, and pursue at least a beginning of a degree. Mm-hmm. Even an AA degree. Being able to go to a quality.
Is that an Alcoholics Anonymous degree?
Associate's degree.
Oh, if we didn't know something at home, we wouldn't know what that means, Ward. I'm trying to be helpful.
There you go. So, and at least get an associate's degree. It gets you in studying. There's more to education than information. And education uses information, but what's on the internet is just information. And education has to do with analysis, critique, evaluation. So, getting started. What would you say there to 20-something sitting at home?
Yeah, Leroy, what would you say?
Oh, listen to me. No, I'm kidding.
Start with this show off the cuff.
Start with this show. I think Ward hit it on the nail on the head. That is, you have to figure out what you really want to know first. You can't know everything at once, and my advice is just to learn one thing well, and then you'll see what springs out of it. Learn one thing, and you'll see.
That hasn't gone well for you, but go on.
I'm sorry, say it again. Say it one more time.
I said that hasn't gone well for you, but continue.
You two have been the professors, so if it hasn't gone well for me.
See where it got me, so I don't know. Hey, I do think. I would like you guys said. I'd just build off that. It's like I think it goes back to Ward's comment earlier. Just make yourself better at something. I mean, honestly, if you say, you know what, I've always wanted to know how to tie a bunch of knots, like Boy Scouts, like bowline knots. So start watching some videos, learn how to do it. Learn some sign language. It doesn't have to be, I think part of the thing is it doesn't have to be world-changing information you learn. It just has to be you changing information. And it starts somewhere. So all of a sudden you start doing knots. You go, oh, this is fun. Well, what's the next thing? That will lead you somewhere else naturally. Your path will begin on a course. Once you start learning and opening your mind to new things, I think you naturally discover new things that you didn't know about. In other words, you don't have to know the end right now, is what I'm saying, to become a better person. Just take something you just have just a genuine curiosity about. Watch some videos, try to do it at your house. That natural curiosity, when you satisfy it, will start to lead to something else, and then follow the next thing. It's all right.
Read. Pick up a book.
Oh, I said weed. I thought it was like a California thing. I was like, not.
See, he's got that whole beatnik look going, doesn't he?
Well, they ruled. I have a story here. California said that marijuana shops are essential.
That's right.
Exactly.
They're open.
That and laundromats. I thought it was funny that they said laundromats were essential. That's actually on the list of essential places to stay open.
It kind
Well,
of
some
makes
people
sense.
wouldn't have a place to wash their clothes otherwise.
Right.
No, but that doesn't. No, we're trying to encourage social distancing. What better way than to stink? I think we should close the laundromats, and that in itself will take care of the COVID-19 thing.
That is so funny. That's like Joe funny.
If I was the governor, problem solved.
It's so funny. I'm just gonna make everybody stink.
Maybe that's why the toilet paper actually disappeared. People haven't bought it; they've taken it off the shelves.
Oh my!
This could be a government conspiracy to make us all stinky people.
I
To
was
not
in
shake
Starbucks.
hands. They're like, we can't shake hands. Why not? Well, I'm taking care of business other ways because I have no toilet paper. You don't want to shake my hand.
That's funny.
This
I was
is
in Starbucks the other day,
It's
and
just,
this lady's probably about 70 years old. She turns around and looks at me and she goes, "What are they doing with all this toilet paper?" She goes, "I was born in Cuba. We used to use corn cobs and leaves." And I just said, "What?" That's the last thing I really wanted to think about in Starbucks this morning.
I saw that on a meme. And you've really got to eat a lot of corn, too. I say eat more cheese, and then you have to go to the bathroom less.
Constipation for salvation.
Yes.
That is so funny.
If I were governor, all these strategies I would be sharing with a much broader audience by force. I'd make them actually watch these things. I'd send like the police to their house and make them watch these instructions because it would save them.
It's funny.
Oh, I look forward to voting for you.
Yeah.
I approve of this ad. All right. I guess we're probably done with our time for right now. I'm going to close this out here if I can figure out where my mouse is to close this thing. And we got off a little rough start. I think we learned some tech things trying to do this at-home thing. I'll have to go watch this archive video. Hopefully it turned out okay and people could actually see it. And we'll try this again. We'll chat offline, guys, and see when we can do this. Maybe we'll try to hit a once-a-week thing again for a while. We have nothing else to do. And we'll see if we can make it work out.